now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome futurist and creator of digital futures, Shivvy Jervis.
Wow, look at this. Oh my goodness. The atmosphere is absolutely electric. I'm going to try and paint a picture for you of some of the imaginative applications of future tech that need to be on your radar now if you want to stay future-proof. And I'm also what they call an optimistic futurist. You've got a lot of futurists out there who will talk to you about what's not going to work. And I'd rather not focus on that. I'm going to tell you what is going to work for you, right? And the future is really goddamn bright. Pardon my French. The future is absolutely magnificent, and there's no reason why this skyrocketing pace of growth we're seeing in the digital economy, because there's a lot coming at you, right? It's a lot of noise. It's exhausting to make sense of it. And it can be incredibly, incredibly daunting, but it need not be. So I'm going to try and demystify this for you, or at least until that timer counts me down and I self-destruct, and that's it. So, a little peek into the 3 areas of advances that I'm going to talk to you about today. Emotive AI, what does that mean? Emotionally aware forms of artificial intelligence that will take this concept from a cold, clinical line of code humming away in this mysterious parallel digital server somewhere to something that actually does something for you and me, your clients, your stakeholders, your entire ecosystem. Mixed reality that will take things like VR and AR and all these buzzwords and actually create something more cohesive from that, an experience, an immersive reality that could transform how you market, how you run your campaigns, how you get people really immersed in the property world. And data science, which, let's face it, actually a show of hands, how many of you know what data science is? Oh, wow, that's 3. That's great, because my bit on data science is actually more an education piece to give you guys a sense of why you should care. This isn't something that's just the remit of the IT guys, or it isn't just a geek thing. It is something very much that if you guys understood it, I think you could make a lot more sense of it in your business. And Zillow at the forefront of it, so you're very, very well placed to do that. Now, I believe that we're in the midst of an extremely powerful 4th industrial revolution, unlike anything that's come before it. So we are very well placed to maximize this. But even as we're becoming more digital, and this is where the optimistic view comes in, digital technologies themselves are actually becoming intrinsically more human. And living in this digital age, there's no dearth of one-liners like this that... They're amusing, right? They make us chuckle. A little bit sad as well, right? Because we don't want to be tethered to our devices, head down, not focusing on the outside world. And we don't want to pull what we call Gen Z, 14 to 19-year-olds, sat around a table and they're kind of talking to each other on their devices, but not to each other. So what we want to do is avoid that situation. We want to get to a place where technology acts as such an invisible force that we forget it's even there. Such that you lift your head up and away from your devices and, God forbid, actually have a conversation with someone. And that's where I want us to get to. And I travel across the world to look at all this innovation and then uncover the stuff that will help us do that. But for all our talk of we live in the age of enlightenment, we live in the age of digital disruption, and I hate the word disruption, by the way. It's a pet peeve of mine. It's sort of, I'm the Airbnb of this and the Uber of this. I sit in a lot of startup pitches, and I get that a lot. And I think, well, okay, I'm the Airbnb of I don't know what, parenting maybe. But the age of, I wish, the age of distraction is where we're at. It is upon us. We've got stuff coming at us again and again and again. That's, by the way, the extent of special effects you'll get from me today. And what we need to consider here is 3 things. And I think this stuff will resonate with you guys, right? We all know this. Demand from clients and stakeholders is not for on demand right now. It's actually, I wanted it yesterday. And I want it fast. And please, could you deliver it to me with the best possible accuracy? That's really hard. That's really hard to service. And then you've got the fact that, although, for example, purchasing or selling a house is a very, very big decision, a lot of these decisions are influenced by what we see online. So you've got to go where the customer is. And, just to make it a little bit easier, you've got less than 35 seconds of online captive attention, not necessarily to sell a property or to buy one, but just to gather and capture someone's attention, and then possibly leads to a follow-up or a lead. Just to give you a quick idea of my kind of background, rather than list a whole bunch of credentials, I find that a bit vain. I'd rather have other people tell you why I do what I do, kind of my ethos. I was a business and tech journalist for a long time, then head of digital for a tech company, and then became a futurist. And what I really do is not just talk to the big innovation labs, but I hunt down what I call the basement founders. These are the kind of undiscovered mavericks who are creating the innovation today that will be mainstream in the future. And in all of this, I think, making sure that you guys stay in the equation and retain the control of that experience, to me, is possibly, I think, the thing that jumps out the most. So here's a question for you guys. Multiple choice, we all love that. Now, options 2 and 3, you're not actually meant to know what they are, I just threw those in. Okay, that's something for an artificial intelligence expert. It's a bit of a curveball. But I wonder if anyone maybe has the guts to kind of just shout out, and I think this audience is really good at that. You guys are really ready to go. What do you think is the most valuable intelligence in this digital age? Anyone? Okay, right. You're not quite right. It's you guys. Give yourself a chair. Come on. It's you guys. You are the most invaluable form of intelligence in this digital arena. All right? So the future isn't just technological, it's actually human. And to have really powerful, great real estate, you're going to need superb agents. So the human part of the equation is not ever going to get outdated. And just before I dive into our first trend, I want to touch a little bit about why the property industry needs to actually possibly think about emulating some of the traits of how tech startups work. First of all, and I was saying this backstage to some of the wonderful folks at Zillow, you don't need to go head-to-head with the tech giants or the prop tech startups that are cropping up. Yeah, and one new startup born every 3 minutes, by the way, so that's quite terrifying. But if you can learn to adapt and adopt some of the agility and the nimble behaviors of how they work, to be able to pivot your proposition when something isn't quite working, and to create that brand imprint beyond just the point of transaction. So you've got folks talking about you guys and the great service you provide well beyond just that point of transaction. You can use technology to do this, and to build in-house capability without making a massive dent in your profit margin. And I believe you're very well placed to make this happen. Right, so let's go into our first trend, emotive AI and real estate. So I explained a little bit about what this means, but just to give you a bit of context, this is an interesting one, right? So by 2020, we're going to be talking to what more than our spouse? And no one say mum-in-law, because that would be really creepy. Oh, there you go. Should we swap places? That's brilliant. Right, exactly that, exactly that. We will talk more to bots in the form of virtual assistants or text bots, or what I'm about to show you, emotive bots, digital humans, far more. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It just means that this will actually augment and help our everyday jobs, not decimate them and not take them away. So I want to talk to you about conversational AI. What this means is artificial intelligence, right, where it recreates the way the human brain functions, that can actually perceive and respond to human emotion. And that's still quite new, but it's being developed, it's being rolled out. And just to give you a really good example of this, let's just dive right into an illustration, okay, rather than make this as kind of long theoretical talk. So imagine that this is either yourself, a client, buyer, seller, any stakeholder, and you're looking at either an app, the Zillow website, your particular business's portal, or indeed for you guys, your intranet, right? Because you employ people too. And you have a very, very, very pressing concern. You need some information, you need it fast, you need to make sense of it. Maybe it's Friday, 6 p.m., and you've got to deliver a report, and you want something and you wanted it yesterday, and you're frustrated, you're confused, you're perplexed, you're agitated, you're in a rush. And then one of these two faces appears. Pretty good-looking folks, if I say so myself. These are not real, they're virtualized, they're digital humans. And I will show you in a second exactly what they will do. What they will do in real time is through the front-facing camera on your device, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, and you have to opt in so you can choose. It will read your emotion in real time using very advanced facial recognition technology, acknowledge that, which not all customer service people do, and you get really grumpy people do, right? So it takes the kind of mood bias out of it. These guys are never moody because the algorithm's brilliant. Acknowledges your state of confusion. Hi, Shivvy J. You seem really frustrated right now. God, you seem actually quite aggressive. Clearly, you can't find what you need. What can I get you? Please calm down. And then mines the data at about 100th the speed of a human and feeds that back to you. So less than 3 minutes later, you're out the door in a brilliant mood, you got what you needed, and it didn't feel like a faceless, emotionless interaction. But what all of this really tells us is that we don't need artificial intelligence to stay that artificial. It can emulate human characteristics, and actually it can be extremely useful for us. So just to give you a summary of how this works, right? It reads your emotion. You can do this by video or audio, because let's face it, your voice will also give away the mood you're in or the state of mind you're in. Acknowledge that issue. Mine the data, because let's face it, if it can't actually go through the information and serve up what you're looking for, whatever information you need, then it's a bit useless. And then actually complete that transaction. Now, where I think this can be used extremely well in the real estate industry is that first point of contact where you guys might not be reachable. So I believe that when you've got lead conversions and lead generation coming your way, I mean, there's only one of you, right? There could be 15 of you in this case. But it can't do everything that you guys would do. It won't have that instant kind of intuition or human consciousness. Let's be clear about what it can't do. It doesn't do empathy, intuition, or human consciousness to the extent that you guys do. So it just adds and augments and takes the tedium out of your job rather than displaces you entirely. But it could, let's say I'm about to buy a house, which I actually am next year, talk me through some of the basics that I want to know about the property or the wider market or where something is going or valuation on my property. And then essentially still pass that on to you. So it's done the kind of grunt work if you're not reachable. So in a way, it's sort of always on, 24/7 customer service, which I think is genius. And it could also, in that process, in the nicest way, actually upsell some of the products and services that your business offers in the nicest way. People go away feeling a bit pleased with themselves for having used some really cool futuristic technology. And for you yourself, on that Friday at 6 p.m., when you need to pull together a particular report, it will actually connect to your data repository, your intranet, or any kind of bunch of spreadsheets that you don't have to go through yourself and extract the information you need. So in that sense, it's valuable both to the kind of external customer-facing perspective as well as for you guys. So I'm not going to touch upon data. Now, it sounds a bit boring and flat, but it is not. Data is sexy. It is. Data is so sexy. And that's not just because I'm a geek. Okay, because my job, and I do a lot of broadcasting as well, is to actually make this stuff exciting and palatable to folks that aren't in the tech sector. And so kind of bridging that world between the geeks and the data scientists and everyday folks. So I want to talk to you about what we're expecting to see with data. But just have a look at this first, right? This is kind of organizations' use of data. And what this tells you is that you have got X amount, not too bad, 50% for the first category in terms of keeping costs down, who started it and are seeing good value. But what worries me is there's a significant portion that actually haven't managed to extract the right value from it. So they might not reinvest in it, or it might just puzzle them and not do what they needed to. And of course, there are those that haven't entered that journey yet, and my best wishes to them because they're in trouble. But for those that actually have started on that journey and aren't seeing value, it may be some of you, maybe those outside of the sector as well, I see two things most often than not, because I do a lot of advisory work with companies where I go in and I kind of embed myself in their way of working for 3 months, get a really good sense of it, and then try and put some innovation in place to help them really create efficiencies and maximize revenues, and let's use some more business jargon there about productivity and things like that. But basically, what they're not doing correctly is they're not asking the right questions of the data, right? Or the source of data itself isn't quite right. And the other thing I'd love to share with you guys is that stat means nothing until I tell you what it actually does. That's 80% of tech or IT budgets spent by small and medium-sized organizations that go on simply keeping outmoded forms of infrastructure ticking along, Really boring stuff. That's even more boring than anything else, right? And research has found that if we spent even 1/5 of that, if we diverted that towards advanced data science efforts and investing in that, or even in investing in the education piece, right, to get you guys and your organization more aware of it, we could actually stand to create entirely new business lines and revenue models. And not enough organizations, or indeed individual business owners, are doing that. So what all of this is doing, right, and this is where it really gets interesting, is it's now going out of the research labs and into your hands. Now, one reason why I wanted to talk about data is because Zillow are doing this so well. I mean, I'm not easy to impress, I promise you, ask my husband, but Zillow is really, really tough, really doing a fantastic job, and they're kind of at the forefront of this. So I felt like I really had to do this kind of education piece to demystify why you should care about it, because they're serving up these really remarkable insights, and they've got a fantastic data science team. By the way, they didn't pay me for this little blurb. I genuinely am so impressed with them. But what it does is it takes that need away for you guys to know really complex things like these graphical interfaces or statistical programming languages that you don't need to know this stuff. Okay, let someone else handle it. But I do think if you understood it a bit better, you were excited about it, it was kind of on your radar about what predictive data and data science could do, it would just make it a more engaging process, and you'd be able to extrapolate those insights that are coming in and ask the right questions of it. Here also are two forms of data that are the most underutilized. We're talking now about exabytes, petabytes, zettabytes of data, right? Has gone well beyond your hard drive space of 200 GB. And we've got open data, closed data, smart data, lost data, fast data, big data, big data, micro data. So, you know, my head hurts with that stuff. These two, I think, are really interesting. So there's fast data, which is being used heavily in the retail industry. And the premise it works on is kind of like with the weather. Would you rather know what the weather's doing right now if you're about to head out, or would you rather know 45 minutes later? It's a bit of a no-brainer, right? So having a mostly accurate answer now is more valuable than having a completely accurate retrospective answer half an hour later. So for instance, with retailers, and indeed this is a kind of little bit of a research experiment they did at airports, where they said, what if when people are walking past the travel, retail, or duty-free areas, we had a digital kiosk, right, where you could kind of walk up to it, it had something quite engaging on it to kind of capture your attention, and on the basis of literally 2 minutes of asking the customer something, it immediately understood what preferences are kind of specific to you, and it served up a coupon on the spot for 20% off right away. So for me, it would be 20% off Thai food. I'll be off to the restaurant in a jiffy, right? But it's something that is very relevant now, and it actually capitalizes on what would be a missed opportunity, rather than addressing or targeting the customer after their need has passed. You kind of preempt that, you predict it almost, and you kind of bring it on a bit. And then you've got lost data, heavily used in manufacturing. I know it sounds a bit dull, but trust me, it is really interesting. And it's thousands and thousands of sensors in smart city homes. Jet engines are a great example, more than 3,000 sensors, only 5% of that captured at the moment. So in the UK, it is being used to predict the likelihood of an MP, a member of parliament, taking a bribe. It's quite scary. In manufacturing and supply chain, great efficiencies, and national security. Again, back in the UK Home Office is using it with 98% accuracy to prevent dangerous terrorism propaganda from even being uploaded. I mean, that is feel-good stuff, right? And in light of what's going on right now, and the terrible news recently as well in Pittsburgh, no matter what that was fueled by, a hate crime, and that stuff is really, really saddening. So my heart goes out to them. Technology can actually help, and it should be doing more. And I want us to get to a place where we do more with that, rather than keeping this in the research labs. And some quick examples of what this can do, specifically in real estate, for example, being really mindful of user privacy at all times, is give you that context. So what is the actual context of exchange when a buyer or seller that has used you guys actually recommends you? Well, how might others actually respond? It could actually predict the intention and the potential outcome. It can also do a lot of micro-targeting. It's something called psychographic profiles, which rather than just me going on there and going, okay, this is kind of the location I want, radius of 4 kilometers from here, this is my budget, I want 4 bedrooms, it goes deeper than that, and it serves up or pushes up properties that are related more to my micro needs, stuff that I didn't even know that I possibly wanted. So preempting my needs before even I'm aware that I have them. And lastly, campaign impact, right? Because you guys clearly do marketing, and it could help predict, and I've seen this firsthand in various industries, to actually predict how certain folks, demographics and different profiles, will actually respond to what we call the emotionality, because we are emotional creatures. So rather than just going, well, I think this keyword might work, boring, boring, it will actually potentially predict that emotional response to greater deal of accuracy. So I'm going to play a quick video for you that paints a picture of this and brings it to life. Cue video, please.
Legendary hockey player Wayne Gretzky attributed his success to his ability to skate where the puck is going to be, not where it had been. The great one was able to innately calculate the puck's eventual position from his understanding of the game, his knowledge of his own team, the opposing players, puck speed, ice conditions, and a wealth of other factors. Businesses invest in data management systems to store an ever-increasing stream of historical data. This data is mostly used for reporting. The problem is that reports can only show where the puck has been. But hidden in that same data are nuggets of information that could help you anticipate business changes, make forecasts, and proactively solve business problems. Predictive analytics tools sift through your data to reveal hidden patterns and trends, empowering your business analysts with the ability to forecast where the puck is going to be.
So that's pretty good. I don't have those illustration skills. That's why I counted on that video. So really what this brings to life is the third wave of analytics, as this is called. If I've even stoked your imagination a little bit or piqued your curiosity to understand what data analytics even means, and I feel like I've done my job, because we need to have this on our radar now. It isn't an area you can afford to ignore, and I think just having an understanding of it can take you a long way. I want to share with you 5 jobs that don't exist now that will do in the next 2 years. And this is quite interesting, right? Particularly that last one. There's a lot out there about the ethics behind all of this tech, behind artificial intelligence, the robots are coming rhetoric, and I'm really positive about this. I believe that we need to use technology in 3 ways, or we're dead in the water, and we will end up in that Oppenheimer moment going, what have we done? And we don't need to get there. There's enough people that are very mindful of our sustainable futures and the legacy we want future generations to inherit that are using this very meaningfully. So meaningful innovation is what it's all about. And my 3 criteria: is it a catalyst? Is it going to actually spur on more innovation rather than just a blink and you'll miss it thing that's here today, gone tomorrow, boring trend, good night? So it needs to be able to actually drive further innovation and advances. It needs to be a connector, obvious one. If it doesn't bridge the divide between on and offline, or you and your customer, or whichever 2 factors you're trying to bridge together, then it's kind of pointless. And the last one, is it an actual mechanism to driving sustainable growth? So not just something that's a bit interesting or a bit spicy and a bit of a blink and you'll miss it thing, or sizzle and fizzle, but something that will actually go the distance. So, final point, the future is not technological. Sounds a bit provocative, given I'm a tech futurist. I believe it's entirely human, and it needs to stay that way. You now have line of sight to a reality that is overwhelming and daunting and intense on the one hand. There's a lot to think about, but one that is utterly empowering and enlightening, whether it's business or home. Because you're sat here with 2 hats on, right? You're not just sat here as real estate professionals. You're citizens, your parents. You have a personal hat on as well. And it needs to address the duality of our lives. Otherwise, it's just meaningless, and I better count myself out of a job, really. So that's really what I wanted to convey today, in addition to the 3 trends that I thought could drive real value for you guys. So thank you so much for listening.